Hello, and welcome to the SQV podcast, where we always honor the small, quiet voice and deep inside. I'm coming at you this morning from Panama City Beach in super secret Prostate Wife headquarters. And with me today, I am honored to have with me Todd Lingle from Gilbert, Arizona, originally from Idaho. This is a man I met in my networking circles, and what I found is Todd is a man of character, of strength, and he lives to honor his mother and his sister, who tragically passed in an automobile accident in 1975. I am so proud to welcome you to the SQV, Todd.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it, and thank you for honoring my mom and my sister.
You do so by the work you're doing. And so I told you before we press record that we're going to talk about hope, but we have to give our listeners and our watchers that are tuning in today to watch this on YouTube, we have to give them some type of perspective. So please tell us what happened on that day and a little bit more about your mom and your sister so we can get to know who they were.
Okay. It was June 14th, 1975. I was 3 years old when it took place. It was a day before Father's Day. And my mom was taking my brother and my sister to my grandmother's house. My brother was in 4-H and he had a 4-H meeting right across the road from my grandma. And then my sister wanted to bake pie crusts with my grandma for Father's Day.
And she was 6 at this time, right?
She was 6. Yeah, my brother was 9.
Sweet. So sweet.
Yeah.
So was your sister always in the kitchen with your mom and your grandma? Was that her thing?
You know, from what I've been told, yes, she really liked to do that. I don't have hardly any memory. I have one memory of my mom, my sister, and that was them walking down the hall, and my sister, we were playing in the bedroom, and that's all I remember.
Because you were only 3 when this happened.
Yeah, I was 3.
That makes it harder. I think you don't have those memories to cling to. So I'm sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
No, it's good. And so it was in the evening time, and I guess they were going to head over there, and then my mom was going to come back. I stayed at home with my dad. We had a horse that my dad was breaking, and I was playing at home, I guess, my dad said. And they hadn't showed up, so my grandma was calling. And of course, back in 75, there's no cell phones. And so my dad finally heard the phone. He answered it, and my grandma said, "Hey, they haven't shown up yet." And my dad's like, "Well, maybe they broke down. We'll head that direction." So we got in a Jeep, I guess, and started heading toward their house. It was about 30 minutes away from us. And about 3 or 4 miles out of town, we come upon the wreck. And my dad said he could see that it was the back of our car. My mom was in the 66 Chevelle Super Sport. And he got out, left me, of course, in the vehicle, and he was running toward the wreck. And a friend of his was a deputy and turned and saw my dad and basically tackled him in the middle of the highway and said, "Hey, Karen and Shelly are gone, but my brother was headed to the hospital and that he needed us." And so my dad said he collapsed on the pavement, and that's really all he remembers about that from that point, other than the fact that there was another police officer there from another city, and he drove us to the hospital. To this day, he doesn't know how our Jeep got home. But so that day changed everything in my life, and everybody's life and my whole family. And it's, I've sat down to try to think of how many people it's affected, and I can't even come up with a number, the people it's affected over the years. But as the coming weeks came and stuff, of course, I don't remember any of this. My grandmother was watching me. My dad had a contracting business at the time. And my grandmother would also watch the police officer's little girl that drove us to the hospital. And I was telling that little girl that her dad killed my mom and my sister. And that wasn't the truth at all. And so in order for my dad to get me to stop saying that, he took me to the wrecking yard and showed me the pickup of the guy that was driving and that killed my mom, my sister. And so then I finally would stop, saying that. And back in 75, you were a weirdo if you went to counseling. And the old adage, buck up, buttercup, was the thing that kind of went on.
Good old boys. And you were in Idaho,
Yeah.
These were tough, hardworking men, and they just plowed through. And there's suicides everywhere. There's suicides. Yeah. It was tough. I'm wondering if you could just tell our viewers was the person that hit your mom and your sister, was he drinking?
Yeah, he was drunk. They hit driver to driver head on. And I can tell you a little bit. I'll fast forward through my life real quick. And as I started CARES Foundation, I wanted to speak in the town that they were killed in that area. And some of the people that go to my dad's church, that I grew up in a non-denominational Christian church, and I wanted to speak there. And so when I went down there, I was able to talk to the minister. That he was a younger minister. He's 40 some years old. And we got to talking. I don't even know how it came up, but we figured out that his wife's grandmother was a first responder to my mom's wreck. And I'm going, that's just crazy. That just was dumbfounded, you know? And so I said, well, my first question was, is she still alive? And he said, absolutely. And she's like 30 minutes from where we were at. And I'm like,
Wow.
call her. So I did. And I was able to spend a couple hours with her. And so, you know, that point where my dad said he collapsed, I asked her, I said, what was the scene like when you were on the scene? Because they were already gone with my brother by the time we got there. And so she goes, when I got on the scene, she goes, there was an older lady there that she goes, must have been trained in 4-H, had lots of gauze. And she goes, your brother was wrapped up in gauze. His arm was broke, obviously. She goes, he was bleeding from the head and he was wrapped in gauze. The drunk driver was wrapped in gauze. And she goes, your mom and sister were obviously had passed. And I'm like, okay. I said, can you tell me specifics? And she goes, you really want to know that? And I said, yeah, I do, because I said, it will help me with knowing their last moments, and it'll help me with some closure too, because I've never heard anything about that. And she goes, okay. So, and I won't get super graphic here, but I'll just tell you the gist of it. Back in 75, kids stood up in the front seat. So when they hit driver to driver head on at approximately, I don't know, 55, 60 miles an hour, something like that. And it popped the hood up in my mom's car and drove it back through the windshield. And my sister was standing up in the front seat, and she was hit in the head, and she died instantly. And this first responder, she said that my sister was sitting back in the seat like you normally would sit. And your mom was giving your sister a hug. And I said, you know what? I said, that makes total sense, because I said, my mom's death certificate said she died moments after impact. So I really, truly believe that she looked and saw my sister was gone, and she had enough life in her to hug my sister.
Oh, hold on. Let's just take a breath there.
Yeah. It still gives me chills when I talk about it.
It gives us all chills, Todd. It does. I love your story, and I love your vulnerability to keep retelling it, and it's got to be just torture for you. And the formidable strength that you show through that vulnerability is to be applauded. And I I'm a writer. We talked last time about, potentially writing the story down, and it should be a movie. It's a beautiful, tragic, heart-wrenching story, like a lot of movies I've watched, a lot of books I've read. And this is just, everybody's got a story, but yours is pretty tremendous. I wonder what life would have been like should Karen and Shelly have lived. And I know there are angels watching you. We know that. So when this wreck occurred, obviously it transformed your family dynamic. It transferred who people were in the community to you.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of negativity that happened with your family dynamic, and we don't need to get into that. I know your dad struggled, your brother struggled. Your brother made it out of the wreck okay?
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah.
Okay, and you and him have a pretty good relationship.
Yeah, it's there,
Yeah.
He's a good guy. Sometimes we struggle. But I think for him to hear kind of what I'm doing sometimes, I think brings things up for him. So he doesn't like to really talk about it.
I get it.
And I do
I get
too.
it.
I
get
do
it.
as well. Yeah. And I wanted to add one thing onto that,
Yeah.
talking with her.
Sure thing.
That my mom hugging my sister is so significant, because that's where my logo kind of steps in. At that point, I didn't have my logo. And so my logo here, you can see the K this part here wraps around the other leg, and that's the significance of my mom giving my sister a hug.
Yeah.
My mom's name was Karen. That's where the Kare comes from, and my sister, of course, Shelly. That's Cares. So that's kind of that was a huge significant thing about the logo.
It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. And I mean, it's a crazy brand, right? But this is your brand. I mean, my brand is prostate cancer, and working through that, and we go through tough things so we can share our message with others and help them. And so what I want to talk to you today about spreading hope, because I know that's your mantra. If your brand is Karen and Shelly, then your mantra is spreading hope. And it's very similar to my walk in life. I try to spread joy, and that's a big reason I do the SQV. So I feel like having you on is so special. I just want to tell you thank you again.
Thank you.
Having you on is so special. And we're about the same age, and we've lived in similar areas in this country and had similar lives. And we all go through stuff. Everybody's going through something hard. And there's this mantra, there's this saying that says, be kinder than you have to be, because you don't know what someone else is going through. And I really ascribe to that. I try to meet with people and make them feel valued and compliment them, because everybody has something you can compliment. Absolutely. Even if their attitude is nasty, they might be wearing cute shoes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get lots of compliments on my hair.
I love your hair. It's a very masculine look. My husband shares the exact same hair, so it's fine. It's great. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about what you've been doing now that you live in Idaho. No, you were from Idaho. That's where all this happened. And now you're in Gilbert, Arizona. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I have a lot of my heart in Idaho. My ex-husband, who we're friends again, and my son, my baby, lives in Idaho. So I keep being pulled there. Nice. But yes, so you're living in Gilbert, Arizona, and tell me about some of the outreach you're doing in the local community.
I'm going out and speaking to kids about my story, and just as I tell my story, I want it to be able to help kids and prevent kids from making the bad choices. And I tell kids it's okay to make mistakes. That's how we learn. But I want to keep them from making the mistake that lasts a lifetime. And so, I try to, as much as I can, keep it upbeat, because my story is not the if you say the happiest one to start with, because there's things it affected my life, growing up and everything. But I just try to tell these kids it's going to be okay, and everybody has a story, and it doesn't matter necessarily what you've gone through, because all of us go have that story. But it's how you come out of it. And for me, it's been a long journey, 4 years of counseling after I almost committed suicide at one point. And so it's like, you can turn anything. And the biggest thing is for these kids is to ask for help.
Yeah.
Because today's kids' communication is not the strong point, because we have all the electronics that keep our heads down.
It's true. They struggle with being real, and it's a great message that you're sharing. And I want to just say thank you to all of the youth pastors and all of the speakers that came into my high school, and the teachers that I had along the way, because they really did help raise me. It takes a village, we need to plug back into these clubs, to these churches, to these organizations, and people like you coming into schools, because that's where all kids have to be. Most kids, unless they dropped out. We're not going to talk about that, but if they're in front of teachers, and the teachers know that there's a problem with connectivity issues, they're always on their phone. These kids are feeling kind of isolated. They're kind of down in the dumps. They don't remember that they need to ask for help to pull themselves out of depression. There's just so many lessons. I would love to help you do a PowerPoint. I don't know if you've done one already.
Yeah, I do. I have a few.
I want to see your PowerPoint. I'm sure it's fantastic. Let's collaborate on that.
Definitely. The other thing I do is I have a camp. It's called Camp Cares, and I've got let's see, get a little bit closer or out. I'm not sure where.
That's why I got rid of the virtual background. It's just crap when you hold something up. That's nice.
And the K I use on everything. So, but what it's for is 75 kids for right now that have been affected by drugs or alcohol. We're going to have up in a camp here in Globe, and just help give these kids some more tools, have some counseling in the morning and the afternoon, and have a fun time. Our theme this year is Survivor. So we're going to have a great time. And then I want to do one of these camps in every state. That's my goal.
Well, okay, so the camp that you're currently speaking about is in your area in Arizona.
Yes, it's an Elks camp out of Globe, Arizona.
And so is it consistently throughout the year, or do you just have sessions in the summertime?
Just going to do it just a week long, June 6th through the 13th this next summer. And it'll be a week long, but I don't want to just leave the kids do a week and then, see you later. I want to get together at least quarterly with all these kids here in the Valley when we come back down. And I want to just ask them how they're doing. Give them some more tools, and I want to continue that every quarter. I would love to be able to get it big enough to have an auditorium for all the kids, and ask questions, ask how they're doing. Fill us in. What do you need? That type of thing, and build the relationships in hopes that we give them the tools that they'll go out and help their peers. That's what the whole goal is. And like I said, I want to go all 50 states. It's the only thing that's stopping us is funding. So, which that's a lot of nonprofits is funding.
Well, I mean, and this might be a good time to tell people how they can connect with you on a more impactful way. So, tell me about your organization, your URLs, all the things.
Okay. My Facebook page, or not Facebook, excuse me, my website is ks-cares.org. So that's ks-kares.org. You can go online and you can donate right from the website, and you get a receipt for your taxes because we are a 501c3. And Facebook, I've got some Facebook and things that I haven't developed that as much because that's not my strongest suit. So I'm working on that. So I do have Facebook and Instagram. Off the top of my head, I don't know the URLs. I should do that, know that. But the website's the best way to reach us, and my personal cell phone number is on there. If anybody has anything, and I tell kids when I speak to them, I give them my personal cell phone number, and I tell them, call me if you need help. I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the morning. My phone is always on. If I hear it, I'll definitely answer it. And I just don't want kids in a situation where they don't feel like they can trust an adult, even if they're in trouble.
Oh, I love that. I love that. You are changing the world one child at a time. And, like I said, I had some amazing people that were like that in my life. My grandmother was one of them. And my uncle, they said, if you ever need us, call us, come to our house. We're here. And sometimes you just need a break. And I mean, that's okay. You can ask for help. And that's why we're on this planet, is to serve one another. So, I want to talk about the prop. And I want you to tell me when you go into these churches and these schools to talk to kids about your story, I want you to tell me what their reaction to your prop is.
Well, I have a couple different things I use. I do have the drunk goggles that kids can try on, and I have a taped line, and they try to walk the line. I do some of the sobriety testing that police officers would do. So they get a kick out of that. And then I also have some belly chains and leg irons that I put on the kids, and they kind of laugh. Well, I used to be a correction officer years ago, so I talk to them while I'm putting those on. And the other thing I have in 2012, I get the chills when I talk about this, and even when I grab it. My dad came to me, and he gave me my mom's purse that she had with her when she died, and he didn't do anything but clean it up. And in 2012 was the first time I ever got to see my mom's handwriting. And it's everything's intact. I actually just probably a month ago, I completely emptied her purse and looked at absolutely everything. I hadn't done that. And so
invasive.
yeah, I know. Well, and it's
okay.
It gave me so much more insight. I mean, my mom had even like the little dowel that you have that goes across your curtain, or your closet dowel, and you hang your clothes on. She had like two pieces that were 1 inch long, and I'm going like, what would my mom be having these for? And the only thing I can think of is my dad had a contracting business, so I'm thinking she took a sample to be able to go buy something for my dad.
Yeah.
and she had Tic Tacs. There's two fully contained Tic Tacs still, and I'm like, man, I could get money out of those things. That's from 1975.
They're probably gross. My grandfather used to do Tic Tacs. He liked the orange and the peppermint.
Oh yeah, yeah. These were cinnamon, and they're completely. They never been opened. So yeah, it's crazy. And she had some double mint gum back in the day.
Wow, that's so
So yeah,
neat.
yeah.
Yeah, it's I love purses. I'm a girly girl to my core, and I love a big purse, and I carry around all kinds of stuff. I always like to do like just if somebody's like, oh, something I need, and I'm like, here you go. Need an allergy pill? I'm always handing out allergy pills. No, but I just love this conversation with you, and I so appreciate the time we've spent together. And I really do want to collaborate with you on some more projects. I think that this should be a book. I think that we've got some other things we need to talk about. So is there anything else that you wanted to talk about or anything that you wanted to ask me before we close our session today?
Well, I am just starting up a campaign. It's called 200 plus one. So what we're asking is we're getting 200 people to donate $25 a month, reoccurring monthly, and for them to get one of their friends to do that as well. And that will get 400 people donating $25 a month.
And this is for the camp.
This is for the camp, yep. And to be able to put that on. And then the next one is already being talked about to go into Oregon. And then one more thing that probably wasn't started up when we talked earlier is, I don't know if you can see this, but this is a nickel on a chain or on a deal, and it's a nickel pledge. And so when I go out and talk to these kids, I have these nickels, and the nickel pledge, its significance on two things. One is there was 5 people in my immediate family, my mom, my sister, my brother, my dad, and myself. And then the other thing is when they take this pledge, they are pledging not to get drunk, and if you see a stranger or a friend, that you'll call 911 or their parents. And so that's kind of what that's about. And so every day I can go like this, and it's like my mom, my sister with me.
I love it. I love it. I know that this is going to be something that is going to affect a lot of people, and your messaging and your love for humanity is pretty cool, man. So keep doing what you're doing. Let's stay in touch. I just appreciate your time so much today. I know you're busy, but I hope that everything is just peachy keen for you in the future, because you've had enough tragedy.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks so much, Todd. Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.